We begin the Gemara today about 10 lines from the bottom of the Amud on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, the first wide line. The Gemara before brought the Sibaya that we're about to learn now, and here the Gemara will bring the Sibaya again in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara, Amar Rab Chiya bar Abba said, Rabbi Yochanan boy. Rabbi Yochanan asked the question that we asked before here in the Gemara. A person that gets remarried to a wife that he divorced after she got married to someone else. So he's not allowed to get remarried to her. And he got married to her. Tzarasa mahu. The question is, what's going to be with the tzara of this wife? Is there a yibum for the tzara of this wife? So the question is being asked according to the opinion of the Chachamim, which the Gemara explained before. They say that there is no lashon tumma in the pasuk that's used regarding machzor grushasei, and therefore, only in a case where we find the lashon tumma, which is a lashon used also by erve, could we say that there'll be no yibum not for her and not for the tzara as well. But according to the Chachamim, the language in the pasuk achrei asher hu tama is not talking about machzor grushasei. Therefore, we have this question here. Amalei Rabami, so Rabami said to Rabbi Yochanan, why don't you ask the question about this woman herself, that he went and remarried, the grusha that he remarried and he wasn't allowed to, whether there's any yibum for her herself? So the Gemara says, no, that's not a question. Regarding this woman herself, I have no question. Even though the Torah's lashon of tumma, according to the Rabbanan, does not refer to this woman, but nevertheless, regarding her herself, I have no question. Why? Because what I say is kavachaymer. There's a following kavachaymer. Again, da'amrinon kavachaymer b'mutala asura. If for someone that was mutta for her husband, her original husband that divorced her, and now she got remarried. So she was mutta to him, but now because she got remarried, she becomes asa to him. Asura, she's asur, or the Bach is gairis in Nesra, she becomes asa to him. But asur la, to her husband's brother, that generally is a person that she would be asa to get married to, because she's a eishes ach. So like kol sheken, most definitely they will say that it'll be asa for her to get married to her husband's brother. So therefore, regarding the machzor grushasei, this woman herself, there's certainly no question that there's no yibum for her. Ki kami bayali. However, when is there my question? Tzara mai. What's the halacha with the tzara regarding the second wife of this machzor grushasei? Is there also no yibum for her, or maybe there is? What's the question? Mi olim kavachaymer lemitchi tzara. Is this kavachaymer that we just said strong enough to tell us that not only is this woman herself not in the mitzvah of yibum, but there's no mitzvah of yibum here at all, not even for the other wife as well? Oilai, or the kavachaymer is not strong enough to say that there's no mitzvah of yibum even for the other wife. So this is one version of the Yibaya, the way Rabbi Yochanan asked it. Now the Gemara brings another version. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak masni hachi. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak learned as follows: that Amar Rab Chiya bar Abba said that boy Rabbi Yochanan asked the question, Hamachzor grushasei mishanisis mahu. He did ask the question regarding this woman herself that he divorced and got remarried to her after she was married to someone else, whether there'll be yibum for her. The question is about her herself because, as I said before, according to the Chachamim in the pasuk, when it talks about this lav of remarrying a grusha, it does not use the term tumah. So maybe the mitzvah of yibum would still apply. Amalei Rabami, so Rabami said, V'tibayaloch, why don't you have this question about tzarasa, about the tzara? Why are you asking the question about this woman herself that he remarried? Why not ask about the tzara? So the Gemara answers, and here it says the reverse of what we said before. Tzarasa like kami bayali. Regarding the tzara, there is no question. Delay olim kavachaymer lemitchi tzara. The kavachaymer that we said before, so it's not strong enough to extend this kavachaymer to say that for the tzara as well, there's no mitzvah of yibum. Hello, regarding what is the question here? Ki kami bayali hi gufa. The question is regarding this woman herself. He was machzor her after she was a grusha. What's the halacha? Mi olam kavachaymer b'makim mitzvah. Is this kavachaymer strong enough to say, even though we're speaking over here about a brother that would have a mitzvah of yibum, but nevertheless I can say that this kavachaymer that if she's going to be aser to her original husband that was mutter to her, for sure she's aser to the brother that usually there's a concept of an isser of eishesach. So I can use this kavachayme even though here this brother would have a mitzvah to do yibum for her. Or a kavachaymer is not a good kavachaymer here because in a case where there's a mitzvah of yibum, it's not going to push off the mitzvah of yibum. That's the question there. Amalei, so he answered him to nisua. We learned this, and here the Gemara again brings the braises that we brought before to answer this question. And this is going to be an answer, we'll see here in this braisa an answer according to both versions of the question. Whether the version of the question is about the grusha herself that he remarried and then he passed away, whether there's yibum for her, and also regarding the tzara, whether there's yibum for her. So what does it say in this braisa? As we learned before, achas ksheira va'achas psula. Or this may actually be a mishnah that we learned before. There's a person that passed away without children, and he had two wives. One of the wives was a ksheira, and the other one is a psula. So imhaya chaylet. So now the brother that's coming, and he has an option to either do chalitza or yibum. So if he decides to do chalitza, chaylet's the psula. He should do chalitza for the pasula one. V'imhaya miyavim. If he's deciding to do yibum, miyavim l'ksheira. He does yibum for the kosher one. So the Gemara explains, and here there's a repetition of the Gemara we learned before. My ksheira, my psula. What's the meaning of this ksheira and psula? In what sense is she kosher apostle, and to whom? Ksheira means ksheira la'alma. Ksheira means that she's kosher for anybody, meaning that she's a miyucheses, and she can get married even to her kayin. And psula means psula la'alma, that she's apostle for anybody else, meaning over here that she's a apostle, a woman, not a miyucheses, that she can't get married to her kayin. But the question is, how would that be relevant over here regarding this brother that's choosing to do yibum or chalitza? Kiven de lididei chazia, he is not a kayin, he's a Yisrael, and for him, he can do yibum with either one of them. May nafka lemina. What difference does it make? Why are we telling him do chalitza with a pasala woman or do yibum with the kosher woman? Elalav. So then, shouldn't we say what's the pshat over here? Ksheira means ksheira lei, that she is kosher to her original husband that she was married to, that passed away. And psula means psula lei. And psula means that this is a woman that was pasul to him. Which psula are we talking about? What's the chiddush over here that it's telling me about psula lei? Machze grushasai, that he wasn't supposed to get remarried to her, and he did, and it was pasul to him. Ve'katani, and what does it say here? That if he's doing yibum, so yibum could be done for the ksheira. So this is the tzara. The tzara of the machzeh grushasai, which is the psula. So for the tzara, you could do yibum. So right here I see that for the tzara, yibum could be done. So only for the ksheira. But for the grusha herself, that he got remarried to her, for her he can't do yibum. He could only do chalitza. So it's paishet that part of the question, that regarding the machzeh grushasa herself, that woman, you could only do chalitza and not yibum. And regarding the tzara, which is the ksheira, with her he can do yibum. So the Gemara answers, Loi, this is not the pshat here. Go back to what we thought before. Ksheira la'alma, psula la'alma. The term ksheira means not regarding the first husband that was married to her, kosher to him or pasul to him. Rather, it means kosher la'alma, psula la'alma, that she's kosher to get married to anybody, even to a kayin, or pasul to get married to a kayin. That's what these terms mean. And this that you asked, for this brother that's doing the yibum for him, he can get married to any of them. What difference does it make to him which one he does chalitza or yibum for? So the Gemara answers, Mishum de Rav Yosef, because Rav Yosef tells us the following: Damar Rav Yosef kan shana Rebbe. Here Rebbe teaches us, Lo yishpech adam mei boirei v'acherim tzrichim lahem. Do not spill out the water of your pit, even if you don't need it, but others could have use of it, so don't spill it. Same thing over here. If you're going to do chalitza to the one that's ksheira, so now she becomes a chalutza, and you passel her to another kayin that might want to get married to her. So therefore, if you're going to do chalitza, do it to the one that's already passel anyways, that can't get married to a kayin. If you do yibum, you do it for the ksheira. The Gemara brings another brayse, which we learned before as well. Tosha ma hamachze grushase mishanisis. A person gets remarried to a grusha once she was married already. He v'tzarasa chiletzes. So her and the tzara have to do chalitza. So the Gemara first clarifies pshat in this brayse. He vitzarasa. both her and the tzara do chalitza, you only do chalitza for one of them. So kedaitach, is that possible? Ela eime oi hi oi tzarasa. So it means either her, the grusha herself that he married, or the tzara could only do chalitza. So here we see that you could only do chalitza and not yibum, not for her and not for the tzara. Answers the Gemara, like we said before, Valav, Terutzikum, Tartzisla. Didn't you have to change the wording of this brisa so we see it's not precise? So therefore, Tritz Hachi, change and read the brisa as follows. He chayletzes, that the grusha herself that he remarried. So for her you could only do chalitza. Tzarasa oy chaletzes oy mis Yevamos. But for the chalutza you could do chalitza or yibum and not necessarily only chalitza. Therefore, we can't be patient that there's no yibum for the tzara. Maybe we can learn this brayse that there is yibum for the tzara. Okay, now the Gemara will bring up another case regarding the halachas of when the mitzvah of yibum will not apply. So we had the 15 cases or rayas and cases that were mentioned in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Masechta. And here there's another case. Amar Rav Lili bar Mamel Amar Ma'ukve Amar Shmuel. Tzaras mima'enes. The tzara of a mima'enes. So a mima'enes, as we learned in the beginning of the Masechta and the Mishnah, is a wife that is not married minatayra, but because she's a ketana. The only one that can marry off a ketana is the father, but the father is not alive or he can't marry her off, and one of the brothers is marrying her off, and midrabanan it's a good marriage, but until she becomes bas mitzvah. When she's bas mitzvah, then she could reject, she could be memayin, she could reject this marriage. So over here, what the Gemara is speaking about is a person that was married to two wives. One of them was a regular wife, and the other one was a mema'enes, a katana that he married, and she's a mema'enes. Who is she memayin in? After the husband passes away. And now you have these two women that are here, available to do yibum to them, for them. So the katana was now memayin in the brother. She says she doesn't want yibum with him. So in this case, the tzara, the other wife as well, asura, is also asur for yibum. That was the halacha that Shmuel said. So the Gemara first explains the halacha itself. Leman, the tzara of the mema'enes, to who is she going to be asur for yibum? Ilei melachim, did he mean to say even for any other brothers? So in other words, this mema'enes was memayin one brother that was going to go ahead and do yibum with her, and she was memayin and that one brother. Now you're telling me that the tzara of this wife that was memayin will be asur to any of the other brothers as well for yibum. But why is that? Hashta hi gufa sharya, even this katana herself that was memayin in one of the brothers, she can go and have yibum with any of the other brothers. And why is this? Amar Shmuel, we know that Shmuel said mi'ana bazeh, she was memayin one brother, muteres bazeh, she's still allowed to go and do yibum with any of the other brothers. Only with that brother that she did miyun, so therefore the mitzvah of yibum does not apply to him, and she'll be like an eishes ach. But for the other brothers, if she did not do any miyun, she can go and do yibum with them. So tzarasa mibaya, needless to say that the tzara of this mema'enes could also do yibum with any of the other brothers that she was not memayin in. Hello. So therefore, what do we have to say? What's the pshat and what Shmuel said when he said tzaras mema'enes asura, that the tzara of this katana that was memayin is going to be asur to whom lididei, to this brother that the mema'enes was memayin in. So now the tzara will also be asur to this brother. And Rashi explains what's the pshat that she's asur to this brother, the tzara. Why is the tzara asur to this brother? Once the katana is mema'enes, she rejects, she doesn't want to have this zika, she doesn't want to have a connection to him. So now she rejects this zika, this connection to this yavam. Once that connection is revoked, so now what happens? She's just an eishes ach. She's a regular eishes ach, which would be asur to get married to the yavam, to the brother. And therefore the tzara will be a tzara of this eishes ach. So it's just like we learned in the Mishnah. The tzara of an erve is also going to be pater and asur for yivum. But Rashi now clarifies that this is all only a isim d'Rabbanan, because the truth is, once she's memayin in this zika and this connection to the yavam, what she's really being memayin in is, and she says, I'm memayin in the whole marriage. That's what the koyach of miyin is about. Memayin is that she says, since I'm still a ketana, so I want to revoke, I want to get rid of this entire marriage that I had to the brother, to my husband that passed away.
So really, once she's memayin, it's as if she never was a wife altogether. And if so, the tzara should be able to be miyabim, this brother that she was memayin. But nevertheless, Chachamim were geyser. As Rashi here brings, the Gemara now is thinking that there's a gzeira midrabanan, that because this ketana did fall for Yibum here in the first place, so it looks like that she was an Eishesach, she was the wife of the brother, even though she was Memayin, but she was Memayin after the brother passed away. So it looks like she was an Eishesach. So now when she's Memayin, Chachamim were geyser that she's an Eishesach that's also to get married to the brother, and therefore the tzara will be a tzara of an Eishesach. But this is all a gzeira midrabanan. That's what the Gemara is thinking now. But the Gemara does not accept this gzeira midrabanan. The Gemara asks on this. Fragt the Gemara, now what's the difference when it comes to this mima'enes? What do we say? That she was memayin in one yavam. She said, I don't want to get married to him. But for the other brothers, she is allowed to go and do yibum with them. The shari lachen, she's allowed for the other brothers. Why? Because with the other brothers there was no maisa, there was no miyun that was done regarding them. So therefore, regarding this brother, that there was miyun done for him. So over here we say that because she was memayin in him, so therefore she's not allowed to get married to him, and she's not now like an eishesach, at least midrabanan. But for the other brothers, this miyun does not take effect at all, and she can go and do miyun for the other brothers. They have nothing to do with this miyun at all. If that's true, b'nigeya to the other brothers, if so, tzara nami, say the same thing regarding a tzara, loy avde b'maisa. This tzara, this miyun has nothing to do with her. There is this ketana that was memayin in the yavam, but the tzara, she has nothing to do with this miyun. Why isn't she still a regular yavama that can go and get married to this yavam, even the yavam that the miyun was done with him? So Taisus over here points out that it's different. I mean, over here, this tzara is a tzara of the one that did the yibum, the miyun that is. When it comes to the other brothers, so over there we can say that for the other brothers there was no miyun at all, and therefore she can go and get married to the other brothers. You can do yibum with the other brothers. But when it comes over here, b'nigeya to the tzara of the ketana that did miyun, so why shouldn't we say that miyun affects the tzara as well? Just like we saw in the Mishnah, when you have a erve, that affects the tzara. So over here as well, once she was memayin, so she is now at least midrabanan considered to be like an erve of eishes ach, and therefore it affects the tzara as well, shouldn't it? And Taisus doesn't answer. But the Karban Nisanel says that it's not the same thing, because really, since Menat Torah, when she does miyun, it removes really the whole marriage in the first place. So therefore, this is like a tzara of an eishes ach, of an erve, which is shaloi b'makom mitzvah b'chlal. She's an erve, but it's not in a place of a mitzvah b'chlal, because now for this ketana that was memayin, there's no mitzvah b'chlal. So if so, there's no reason that it should affect the tzara. That's the halacha by any erve shaloi b'makom mitzvah. It doesn't affect the tzara. So over here, once she removed the whole marriage, the Gemara is not accepting any gzeira over here. It is no reason that it should affect the tzara, that she shouldn't be able to go and do yibum with any of the brothers. So therefore the Gemara says there's actually another gzeira midrabanan here. Gzeira mishum tzaras bitoy mimanes. The gzeira is that we don't want to come and confuse it with a case when there's a tzara of a mama'enes, and the mama'enes is also a daughter of the yavam. Okay, now Rashi clarifies, how is that possible? How is it possible that this mama'enes should be a daughter of the yavam? I mentioned before, the whole concept of a mama'enes is when brothers are marrying her off because the father is not alive. And over here we're saying that the yavam is her father, and she got married as a ketana by the brothers, by her brothers, that is, by this Mamanis' brothers, to her husband that passed away. But how did she get married, not Menat Torah, if her father's still alive? Her father would have married her off. So Rashi explains, and Rashi said this in the Mishnah already, that in a case where she had gotten married, her father married her off properly as a ketana, and then her husband passed away, and now she's an almana, she doesn't go back to her father's reshus. Now she's independent.
and here her brothers could marry her off, even while the father is alive, as a katana, they can marry her off, and it's possible then that she should be a mema'enes, and her father is alive. So that's what we're talking about over here. Tsaras bitoy mema'enes, that she's a mema'enes, and she's also the daughter of the Yavam. And it's because of this case of tsaras bitoy mema'enes that they were geyser on the tzara of any mema'enes that there should be no yibum. Now the Gemara explains right away, v'tzaras bita mema'enes. Now if you have the tzara of the daughter of a mema'enes, that's also the daughter of the Yavam, mi asira, would this tzara be aser? Why be making a gzeira because of tzaras bita mema'enes? That it's for her, she herself is not aser either. For Tanan, didn't we learn in the Mishnah? This is the first Mishnah in the Masechta, V'kulon, and all of these 15 women that were mentioned in the Mishnah, that are arayas, and there's no yibum. Im meisu, if they passed away while their husband was still alive, oy mianu, or they were memayin in the marriage. And then in the Mishnah there, as the Bachir brings, it also says, oy nizgarshu, or they were divorced. Tzarisei mutaris. So then the tzara could go ahead and do yibum, because the erve is already gone. The erve was, in any of these ways, the erve is not here anymore, so therefore the tzara could go ahead and do miyun. So the Gemara now explains, what's the pshat in this Mishnah? When it says that the wife was, that the erve was memayin. When are we talking about? Miyun when? The miyana b'man. Who is she memayin in? Ilay with the miyana b'bal is the pshat over here that while her original husband is alive, then she rejected the marriage and then her original husband, Tzahainu Grusha. Isn't that the exact same thing as the Grusha? What's the difference if she got divorced because her husband divorced her, or she was the one that rejected the marriage because she's still a katana? Elalav, don't you think the pshat in the Mishnah is biyavam? That it means that after her husband passed away, she was memayin in her yavam. She says she doesn't want to get married to the yavam. And what does the Mishnah say? Tzarisei mutares. That when she's memayin in the yavam, the tzara could still do yibum. So this is against what Shmuel said, that there's a gzeira over here that we're making by the tzara of mema'enes because of tzaras bitoy mema'enes. But over here we see in the Mishnah that if she was memayin the husband, she was memayin not in the husband, that is, again, she was memayin in the yavam, so then the tzara is going to be mutter. Right, so that's even been negated to any of the arayas that the Mishnah spoke about, including tzaras bitoy mema'enes, this bitoy, one of the arayas, and she was memayin. So now the tzara could go and get married, could go and do yibum. So why would there be any gzeira because of tzaras bitoy mema'enes? So the Gemara answer is loy. No, the pshat is like we thought in the beginning, loy lam bebal, that we're talking about a case where this erve, that, or let's say bitoy, any of the other arayas, she was memayin in her husband's lifetime, the first husband's lifetime. And then we're saying that the tzara is mutter to go and do yibum. The Mishnah is mentioning two scenarios that are sort of gerishin. You have the regular gerishin, where a husband divorces his wife, and then regarding a katana, you have when she could reject the marriage. But it's only talking about when she rejected, when she was memayin, when the husband was alive. But if she was memayin afterwards, then the tzara would still be aser to do yibum. So the Gemara now asks on this, why should there be any difference if she did the miyum before or after? What's the difference? If when her first husband was still alive and she rejected the whole marriage, so she uprooted the whole marriage, and therefore what do I say? So she's the erva here, and she would stop the whole mitzvah of yibum, but she already revoked the whole marriage, and therefore the tzara later, if the husband dies, could go ahead and do yibum. That's if she was memayin before. So why don't you say the same thing? Kimiyana b'yavam. If even after her first husband passed away, and now she's memayin in the yavam, and she doesn't want to have this yibum, she doesn't want to have this connection anymore to this marriage. So Nami, what's really happening is nisuhun kamoy kakra. Her miyun is by the fact that she's saying that she wants to remove the entire original marriage. That's what the miyun is. So why are we making a distinction between the time of her miyun, whether the miyun was when her first husband was alive or the miyun was after? And if the miyun was before, then the tzara can do yibum. If the miyun was after, then the tzara cannot do yibum. Why should there be any difference? So the Gemara answers, basically a Gemara will bring here something which is going to be based on the concept of marasayan. Shom the Tani Rami Bar Yecheskel, because of what Rami Bar Yecheskel said about a similar case. Similar halacha that is the Tani Rami by Yecheskel Miyana Bebal, that if this ketana was memayin in her husband, muteres la'aviv, so then she's allowed to go get married to her husband's father, because if she was memayin in his lifetime, so it's clear that she really was never married to him. The whole marriage was the Rabbanon allowed the brothers to marry her off, and then she rejected the whole marriage. She was never married to him. Biyavam, but if her first husband, that she was married to, passed away, and now after he passes away, now she's only rejecting the marriage because of the Yavam, so then Asura Laviv, then she will be asked to have a relation with the father, and the reason is because in such a case we see that the Marasayan is, it looks like that she was married to her husband. She was married to him. She never revoked the marriage in the lifetime. After he passes away, she's now trying to reject the marriage because of the Yavam. So in such a case, it looks like it's that this was his daughter-in-law. She was married to his son. So therefore, in such a case, I say that she can't go get married to the father of her husband. So Alma, what I see from this is Mishas Nefila, from the time when her husband passed away and she fell for Yibum. She was here now supposed to do Yibum. Niris Kekalasai. Even if she's going to reject the marriage at that point, it's too late. She's rejecting it after her husband passed away. So she now looks like the daughter-in-law of the father here. And therefore she can't ever go get married to the father. So this is a concept of Marasayim basically. So over here as well, Mishas Nefila Niris Ketzaras Bitay. If she's only rejecting the marriage after the brother passed away, after her original husband passed away, so then Niris Ketzaras Bitay, she does look like that she was married to him, and she is she's the Tzaras Bitay is the tzara of her, that she was supposed to do Yibum, and she decided now afterwards that she's not going to do Yibum, but because she already was originally here in this mitzvah of Yibum, and she only revoked it afterwards, so the second wife, the Tzara, looks like Tzaras Bitay. And therefore, the din of the Mishnah of Tzaras Bitay, is potter from Yibum, would apply. If this bitay, again, it's the bitay of the brother that has to do yibum now. If this bitay would revoke the marriage from before already, so the tzara is not tzara's bitay. It's clear that she already removed the whole marriage from before. But if she's only revoking the marriage afterwards, it looks like that she was a bitay, an erva, that was supposed to be here for the yivum, and therefore because of her there's not going to be no yivum, because she's an erva of bitay, not for her and not for the tzara as well. That's the distinction. And therefore, there's a gzeira that just like by a ma'enes, which is bitay, that the tzara cannot do yibum, they made a gzeira on every ma'enes that there shouldn't be any yibum. Not for her, and not for there's no yibum for her, she was ma'enes, and not for the tzara either. The Gemara now brings yet another halacha regarding a case where there's no yibum. Amar Ravasi said, tzaras islandess. The tzara of an islandess. Islandess is a woman that can't give birth. Rashi says the term islandess is from the Lashon Ayel Zachar, which means a ram, which is a male that doesn't give birth. So an tzara of an islandess. So this means a man was married to two women. One was an islandess that can't give birth, and the other one could. So the tzara of this islandess, after the husband passes away with no children, asura, is also asur to do yibum. Shenemar, because how do we know that for an islandess herself there's no yibum? The pasuk says, "V'hoya b'choyer ashetelet," that when the b'choyer, the firstborn, is going to be born after you do yibum, so you give, and it says in the continuation of the pasuk, you give the name for the brother that passed away. So it says ashetelet, that he's going to give birth. Prat la'islandess she'ena yeledes, but an islandess that cannot give birth, there's no mitzvah of yibum. So if there's no yibum, so then she's just eishes ach, which is an erva of kares, and therefore for the tzara as well, there's a erva of eishes ach, and there's no yibum. So this the Gemara asks, Masav Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes asked the question. Shloisha achin, the Mishnah says, if there are three brothers, Nisuin, that are married, Shalish Nashim Nachrias, they're married each to a different wife that have no relation to one another. Umeis echad mehen, and one of the brothers passed away, Vasa Basheni Maimer, and the second brother went and did not do Yibum or Chalitza to the Yevamos, like he usually would, but rather he did Maimer. What's Maimer? So this is something that we will learn in Mitzvah Shem Ba'arichas about later in the Masechta, which is that the Chachamim were Mesakin, that before you do the Yibum in Atayra, which is the actual relation between the Yavam and the Yevama. There's Maimer, which is just like what's usually the Kiddushin by a regular Ishvi Isha. And even though by a Yevama and a Torah there is no Kiddushin, but Chachamim were masakin what they called it Maimer, that there's a stage of Kiddushin where he gives her a ring just like a regular Kiddushin, and that's what Maimer over here means. So he also Basheni Maimer. The second brother that's doing, instead of doing Yibum, he did not do the full Yibum yet. All he did was Maimer, which is a connection between them, a Kiddushin midrabanon. And then Umeis, another second brother passes away, and he has a wife that he was married to. And in addition, there's this wife that was the first brother's wife, and now he did Maimer in her. He did a Rabbanan marriage with her. So what's the din now? Hare elu choltzais v'loi misyabmais. Both of his wives, of this second brother that just passed away, can only do chalitze and not yibum. Why? Why can't you do yibum here? Shenemar, because the pasuk says, umeis echad mehem yevame yava yaleha. That one of the brothers died, so then the Yevama gets married to a brother. So what do we learn from here? Mi sha'aleh zikas yavam echad. When does the Yibum apply? When the Yibum is from a wife of one brother. V'loi zikas shnei Yevamin. But not when there's a zikah of a wife that's from two brothers. And over here, this is a case where there's a zikah, there's a Yibum for two brothers. Why is there a Yibum for two brothers? This woman that was married to the first brother, and now there was a Maimer, there was a Kedushim Midrabanan done with the second brother. She is connected to the first and second brother, because since she's the wife of the first brother, so she's you have to do Yibum for the first brother, even though the second brother already did Kedushim. But that's only a Kedushim Midrabanan. So essentially, the Yibum over here that has to be done by now the third brother is only a Yibum for the first brother. But Midrabanan, the second brother already made a Kiddushin in her, so there is already a certain connection to the second brother, and therefore this is going to be a Yibum also for the second brother. So this woman, the original Zika from the first brother is not completely severed, and there is also a connection through the Maimer to the second brother, so it comes out that at least with the Rabbanon, there is over here there would be a Yibum here for this woman for two brothers. And therefore we learn from this pasuk that there's no Yibum for a Yevama that's connected to two brothers. As Rashi explains, that this is not a real drasha, because we're speaking over here about Maimer, which is a Kedushim Midrabanan. Minat Torah, this Maimer has no effect, and this woman is still just a Yevama from the first brother alone. So therefore, Minat Torah, there should be no reason why you can't do Yibum. But Midrabanan, they were Masakin, and they were Geyser in this case, that she's considered to be connected to both brothers, and therefore there is no Yibum over here. Okay, but they both have to do Chalitza. And the reason why you have to do chalitza, and they both have to do chalitza, is because really, essentially, Minat Torah, the two wives here are not from the same brother, from one brother. Usually, if you have two wives of one brother, you don't do chalitza for two wives. You only do chalitza once. But over here, the one that the second brother only did Maimer for is really still the Yevama from the first brother. So you have to do chalitza for her. And then you have to do chalitza for the wife of the second brother. So you have to do chalitza for both of them. That's what it says here in this Mishnah. Now on this, Rav Yosef said that this is a unique halacha. Zu hi tzaras eishes ach me'av. Over here you have a case of the tzara of eishes ach, and the halacha of eishes ach is always from the father, that the brother from the father. She'iser nefile garam lo, that just by the fact that the first brother that was married to her passed away, that's gaidim that she should be aser, and also the tzara will be aser. In other words, what Rav Yosef is saying is that usually by Yibum there's no Isra of Eishes Ach. There's the mitzvah of Yibum. And therefore you can do Yibum on this wife, on the tzara, on either one of the wives. Over here you have a case that this is a woman that was totally mutter to the first brother, totally mutter to the second brother, totally mutter to the third brother. There is no erva involved over here. There's only the Isra of Eishes Ach that would be, which usually doesn't apply in the case of Yibum. But because Midrabanan we consider her to be connected to two brothers, so therefore it's like she's a Yevama from two Yevamin that comes, that Zikas Shnei Yevamin, as the Gemara before said. So therefore, just being an Eishes Ach with no additional Isser, there's a Gzeira Midrabanan that you should not do Yibum, not for her, and not for the tzara either. So this is a unique thing. You don't find anywhere else in the Torah that there should be anything similar to this. So that this is the statement of Rav Yosef. And Rav Yosef is telling you, Zuhi. We only find this over here by this case, that there's only, she's a Eisha Sach, there's no additional Erve here, but nevertheless, because it is Gzeirim Midrabanan, she doesn't do Yibum, and the Tzara doesn't do Yibum either. So now the Gemara says, seemingly this language, Rav Yosef used, that is, Zuhi, comes to exclude something. Zuhi, Lemutemai, what is he coming to exclude? Lav, don't you think, Lemute Tzaras Eilinus? Shouldn't we say that this is coming to exclude the case that Rav Asi said before, the Tzara of an Eilinus, the Sharia, that the Tzara of an Eilinus will be allowed to do Yibum? Because an Eilinus, as Tosfos explains, is similar to this case. So this is probably what he came to exclude. Why is Eilinus similar to this case? Because an Eilinus is also a woman where there's no additional Erve here. She's simply a brother, she's simply Eishesach, a wife of the brother, and Elamash, she can't have children. But so there's no additional Isser over here. And yet, Rav Asi said that the Tzara of this Eilinus, there'll be no Yibum for either. But what the Gemara is saying is, it seems like that we're coming to be Mimayit, no, Zuhi, that B'negeya to a Tzara of the Eilinus, there will be Yibum for the Tzara. Because that only case is, like Rav Yosef said, is before B'negeya to that case which was Gzeirim Midrabanan, but not regarding Tzaras Eilinus. The Sharia, and over here by Tzaras Eilinus, the Tzara of the Eilinus will be allowed. So the Gemara answers, Loi, that's not what it's coming to exclude. Lumute Tzaras Eilinus da Asira. By the Tzara of Eilinus, it will be Aser, just like this case that we said over here, that it's Aser when you have this case where this woman, which is connected to two brothers, and therefore it's Aser for her and also for the Tzara to do Yibum. Over here as well, the Tzaras Eilinus, it will be Aser. Umay Zuhi. So when it says over here Zuhi, so how is it an exclusion? If both over there it's Aser, and over here as well, by Tzaras Eilinus it's Aser, so we do have another case where you see that the Tzara will be Aser, even though there's no other Erve here. It's just an Eilinus. So the Gemara answers there's a difference. The miyat is as follows. Zuhi, the Isser Nefile, Garamla. That over here, by the case that we spoke about before, this woman that's connected to two brothers, and therefore there's no Yibum. So the Isser Nefila, the very fact that she falls for Yibum and she's connected to two brothers, so that's Gairim, that what? That Tzarasa Boy Chalitza. That now, that she and the Tzara will need only Chalitza, and no Yibum, but yet they will need Chalitza. By Eilinus, when it comes to the Tzara of an Eilinus, Afila Chalitza Leibaya. In such a case, so you don't need even Chalitza either. So the Isser over here is even stronger, that you don't need anything. Not Chalitza, and not Yibum, and not Chalitza either. So that's the exclusion. Before, when Rav Yosef said Zuhi, this is one case where you see that Rabbanan were geyser, that there's no Erve here, but nevertheless, that Tzara can't do any Yibum, but he does need Chalitza. That excludes our case of Tzara's Eilinus, that because the one wife is an Eilinus, the Tzara doesn't have to do not Yibum and not Chalitza. So the Gemara now explains the difference. My time, what's the reason for the difference? The case of an Eilinus that can't do Yibum, that's a limit from a pasuk Menat Torah that you can't do Yibum. So therefore, if Menat Torah, the Eilinus can't do Yibum, so she's an Eishesach, she's an Erva, Kodesh, Eishesach. So therefore the Tzara, which is the Tzara of this Erva, can't do Yibum either. And the Rabbanan. And over here, this case that we spoke about before, this woman that midrabanan is connected to two of the brothers, to the first brother and to the second brother, only through maimer, which is a kedusha midrabanan. So since it's only midrabanan, so therefore she's not going to be able to do yibum, but chalitza you still have to do. The Gemara now brings back from our Mishnah in the beginning of the Masechta and asks on the halacha that Rav Asi said. Tanan, it said in the Mishnah, Vekulon, and all of these 15 arayis and Mesu, Mion, is Garshu, if any of them they died, or did Mion, or were divorced, or Nimtzu Eilinus, or they were found to be an Eilinus, so they say in Mutaris, the Tzara is allowed to do Yibum. So this is a very clear Mishnah. Mamish Befedish, the Mishnah says that the Tzara of an Eilinus, there is Yibum for. So how could Rav Asi say Tzara's Eilinus is Asr, there's no Yibum and there's no Chalitza? So the Gemara answers, like Kashya, this is not at all a question, because it depends on under what conditions they got married. Kan shehikir ba. Over here, Rav Asi was talking about
an islandess that was married to her husband. He was aware of the fact that she's an islandess, and he married her anyways, so it was a legitimate kiddushin, and therefore, now when he passes away, for the islandess there's no yibum, and she's an eishesach, so therefore for the tzara there also isn't. But Kan, in the Mishnah, when it says that if you're the tzara of an islandess, the tzara could do yibum, shalei hikabah. It's when the husband that got married to her, the one that passed away, originally he didn't even realize b'chlal that she was an islandess. He only found out afterwards. So the whole marriage was not even legitimate. It was all a mekach tos, the whole thing. In such a case, we say, so then the islandess it was never married, so she's not disturbing this whole mitzvah of yibum here, and the tzara can go ahead and do yibum. And the Gemara now proves this. I'll prove it to you from the lashon of the Mishnah. Diktani shenimtzu. The Mishnah says that they were found to be an islandess. Shenimtzu was discovered later. That's what it means. It doesn't say that she was. We always knew that she was an islandess. It was something that was discovered later. Then we said that the whole kedushin was a mekach tos, and therefore this islandess does not disturb the mitzvah of yibum. Okay, and now following all these different scenarios the Gemara brought here. So first the Gemara is going to bring, Rava argues over here on Rav Asi, and then the Gemara will also bring the final halacha regarding these cases that Rabbi Yechanan said. Let's see. Amar Rava said, Hilcha said, the halacha is that tzaras islandess muteres, that the tzara of an islandess is going to be mutter to do yibum. The fact, and the Gemara explains right away, vafile hikirba, and that is even if the marriage of the islandess was a legitimate marriage, the first husband knew that she was an islandess, but nevertheless the fact that for the islandess there's no yibum does not pater the tzara from yibum. And not only that, he says, Vafilit Tzaras Bitoy islandess, and even if this islandess was also an erva here, an erva to the Yavam, it's his daughter, or any of the other arayis, nevertheless, the fact that this islandess is a daughter, and she's an erva, and usually the tzara of an erva there's no yibum for, but over here, the fact that she's an islandess does not in any way interfere with the mitzvah of yibum for the tzara. And Rashi explains that the reason over here is because the whole concept that the erva takes away the mitzvah of yibum for herself and even for the tzara is when you have an erva b'mokim mitzvah, when there was a mitzvah of yibum here. But regarding an islandess, Rava disagrees with Rav Asi. Rava says this islandess is not, there was no mitzvah of yibum in the first place. It's not considered to be b'mokim mitzvah at all. So therefore, it doesn't at all interfere with the yibum of the tzara, and the tzara can go ahead and do yibum, even if the islandess is also a erva. It doesn't. There's no connection between them. She's lachatchila not shaykh to the whole mitzvah of yibum altogether. Now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah. Ve'elo ha diktani shenimtzu. So what is the pshat in the Mishnah where it said shenimtzu? Only if it was discovered later that she's an islandess, then I say that the tzara could go ahead and do yibum because the whole kedushin was a mekach tos. But as we were medayik, it's mashma that if it was known before that she's an islandess, it was a legitimate marriage, then there's no yibum for the tzara. So the Gemara says, according to Rava, tni shahayu. You're going to have to say in the Mishnah, not shenimtzu, but shahayu, that even if it was known from before that she's an islandess, still it does not affect the status of the tzara. The tzara could go ahead and do yibum. Now the Gemara brings from Rabbi Yechanan regarding the various halachas that we said before. He said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Achas tzaras mima'enes, when it comes to the tzara of the mima'enes. And the Gemara before said that there was a gzeira that there should be no yibum for this tzara. V'achas tzaras islandess, and the case of a tzara of an islandess, which we're just speaking about. And the tzara of a person that went and got married to his grusha when he wasn't allowed. That was what we spoke about in the beginning today. Kulan mutaris. All of them are allowed to do yibum. So he disagrees with the conclusions in the Gemara that we had before, that the halach is that in all of these cases you are allowed to do yibum. Now the Gemara continues with a new halacha, and this is going to be related to another part of a statement that we had in the continuation of the Mishnah, in the beginning of the Masechta. But first, the Gemara brings a statement from one of the Amirayim, and then, based on this, it will ask on the Mishnah. Ton Rav Beva kamed Rav Nachman. Rav Beva taught in front of Rav Nachman the following halacha: Shalosh noshim mishamshes b'moich. There are three women that are allowed to have marital relations, even using a cloth in that place, which prevents pregnancy. Even though usually this is not allowed, this is zera levatola, but nevertheless, over here, in three situations, it is allowed. Ketana, a girl that's a ketana, and it could be a danger for her if she becomes pregnant. The Gemara will explain, we'll see here. Meuberes, a woman that's already pregnant. Uminika, and a woman that is nursing a baby. And the Gemara explains, Ketana, for a Ketana, the reason why it's allowed, Shema Tesaber, because she may become pregnant, Vishema Tamus, and then, because she's so young, she may die. So it's dangerous for her. So therefore it's allowed. Me'uberes, for a pregnant woman, Shema Tasa Ubrasandal. This in the marital relations, and then causing for that to be a secondary pregnancy could cause the baby of the first pregnancy to be deformed. The face should be deformed. That's what Rashi says sandal means. That's Rashi's pshat. Taisa says it's in a case, one of the pshatim of Taisvis, in a case where there are twins, it can be an issue. But even though Taisvis brings, the Gemara Nidus says that usually this is not an issue at all. But here the Gemara says that in cases where it could be an issue, so therefore it's allowed. And finally, Menika, a nursing mother, also is allowed to put a cloth. Shema tigmoil bena, because then if she becomes pregnant now, so now her son that she's nursing will not have any milk from her mother to nurse from, because after she's pregnant there won't be proper milk. Yevamos, and he could pass away. Now they continue. He says, Rabbi continues and says, Ezi ketana. Who is this ketana that we're speaking about? That is allowed to be mishamash b'moich mibas yud aleph shana v'yom echad ad yud beis shana v'yom echad, from the age of 11 years old in a day to 12-year-old in a day. Pachas mikan, younger than this, v'yeser al kain, or older than this, mishameshes kedarka v'yleches. She can have regular relations with in not using any moich, any cloth. Reason is because younger than this age, there's no danger that she'll get pregnant, and older than this age, she can become pregnant, and there's no danger that she would die. Divrei Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir's opinion. Chachamim Maimrem, the Chachamim say, Achazu, v'achazu, mishameshes, kedarka, v'oileches. Either way, she could have relations regularly, even whether she's below this age, above this age, even in the age from 11 and to 12, she has relations normally. V'oileches, again, kedarka, v'oileches, that is, u'min hashamayim yirachamu. And the Eibishter will have mercy that everything should be okay. Mishum Shenema, the pasuk says, Shomer Psoyim Hashem. Hashem guards those that are simple, that don't know how to guard themselves. So what do we see over here? Now the Gemara comes back based on this to ask a question on one of the things that it said in the Mishnah in the beginning of the Masechta. Midaka, now it said over here, Shema Tisaber v'Shema Tomus. That in this age, between 11 and 12, there's a danger. In that 1 year, maybe she could become pregnant. And if she becomes pregnant, maybe she would die. Miklal, what does this mean? We can see from this, the Ike Ketana de Me'abra v'loi Mesa. It is a possibility that she would become pregnant in this young age and she would not pass away. It's only a maybe, Shema, maybe she would pass away. If so, now the question is, what's one of the things that it said in the Mishnah? In the Mishnah, in connection to what we brought before, the Mishnah spoke about Mion, a Ketana that was Memayan, that then the Tzara could go and do Yibum. Even if the katana was a erva, but since she was memayin, the tzara could do yibum. That's what the Mishnah said. Then the Mishnah said, You can't say regarding the arayas of the Mishnah that was speaking about the mother-in-law or the mother's mother-in-law and so on, you can't talk about miyun regarding them. Why not? Because if it's his mother-in-law, that means she gave birth to children. How could you say she gave birth when she was a katana? If she was memayin, she could only be memayin as a katana. How could you say that she gave birth as a katana? That's the point of what the Mishnah is saying. But the question now is, based on what Rav Beva here is quoting from a Braisa, in Cain, if so, matzinu chamaisa mimenes. It comes out that we have over here a case of a mother-in-law that could have given birth as a ketana, and then afterwards she was memayin. So why is our Mishnah saying that there's no miyun for a ketana? Or Tanan, in the Mishnah it said, You can't say regarding a mother-in-law, the mother-in-law's mother, or the father-in-law's mother, that she was memayin. Why? So the reason would be because if she was mamayan and she was a katana, how would she give birth? But over here, what do we say? That she could give birth, and it's possible that she won't die, even though it's a shema thomas. Maybe she could die when you have a pregnancy at such a young age, but maybe not. So the Gemara says, you're right, you're going to have to change the language of this brayse here. Ema shema tisaber v'tomos. The reason why it's allowed to be mishamash b'moich is because she'll be pregnant and die. If she becomes pregnant, she will die. At that age, you can't give birth. Rabbi Bar Livoi said that this is something which is very clear. Gvul yeshla.
there's a very specific limitation. It's very clearly defined the different ages over here of a girl. Before this age of 11, she will not become pregnant. Within this year from 11 to 12, she will pass away if she becomes pregnant, and the fetus will pass away as well. Above the age of 12, she will live, and the Uber will live as well. So therefore we see that it's very clear that Thomas, and that's why our Mishnah said that you can't have a mother-in-law that was Mima'enes and that she gave birth before when she was a Ketana. The Gemara asks this, is this true? But Vatani Rabbi Bar Shmuel said, and then what it says in the Braise, you can't say regarding a mother's mother, or a father-in-law's mother, you can't say that any of them were mimayin, that they rejected the marriage as a ketana. Why not? Shekvar yoldu, because they already gave birth. So why does the Braise use this expression, shekvar yoldu, that they already gave birth? If the point over here is that they could only give birth as a gedayla, so the Rashi over here should say shekvar godlu, right? That they already are gedaylim. Why does he use the term shekvar yoldu? So we see that we're talking about over here that they're still a ketana, and it's saying in the Braise shekvar yoldu. Ella, therefore the Gemara answers la'olam shema tisaber v'shema tamos. Really, they could give birth, as it says over here in the Braise, that shekvar yoldu, that they could give birth even when they are a ketana. Like we said before, only shema tamos, but it's possible they should give birth. Elo kashiyach. So if so, the question over here is that if they could give birth even as a ketana, so then why are we saying in the Mishnah that there's no mima'enes over here? Maybe the mother-in-law gave birth, and then after birth, she was memayin. Rav Safra answers, Banim arehem ki simonim. Once she had children, so then this is like simonim. Simonim means the simon of being a gedayla. Once she has simonim of being a gedayla, which is usually shtei saris, 2 hairs in that area, so that's a simon that she's a gedayla, and after that there's no miyan. Having children is equivalent to simonim, and therefore there's no miyan after children. So yes, the pshat in our Mishnah is you could give birth. It's possible to give birth in that year from 11 to 12 as a ketana, but nevertheless there'll be no miyun because after that there is no miyun. It's like simonim. Some took this even further. Banim adifim is simonim. Having children is actually even better than simonim that you're a gedayla. So the Gemara now explains, Lamai nafkemina, what difference does it make if we say that it's equivalent to simonim, that is, or it's even stronger than children? So the difference is Rabbi Yehuda. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says regarding the simon that there is regarding hairs, that the hairs have to grow to such an extent that the area becomes black from the hair, but it's not enough just to have 2 hairs. But bibanim maida. Regarding children, it'll be maida that as soon as you have children, that's the best simon in the world, that she's the gedayla already, and you can't do miyan after that. Okay, we'll stop over here. You know what? Let's go just a little bit further until the 2 dots to finish off the Inyan here. So the Gemara, Rav Zvid says a bit differently. Ein banim b'lei simonim. You can't have birth. You can't give birth to children without there being simonim, that there were hairs there, that she was a gedayla. So we know that there were simonim there. Not that the banim are the simonim, but if there are banim, you know that there was simonim as well. The Gemara, if that's the pshat, v'nivdaik. Let's inspect and see if there were any simonim. Says the Gemara, it's possible that the simanim that were there, the hairs that were there, fell out. So even if you don't find them, it doesn't mean that there weren't. If she gave birth, there must be that she had simanim that she's a gedayla already. Says the Gemara, there is an opinion that says, the Gemara in Nida, there's a mandama that says that we are concerned about this, that hairs fall out even if you don't see it. But there's another opinion that says that we're not concerned about this, and if we don't see, we know that there was no simanim there, so why don't we just inspect to see if there's hairs there or not? And says the Gemara, even the one that says that usually we're not concerned that there were hairs there if we don't see, but over here that she gave birth and all the pain and everything that goes on with the birth, it is possible that there were hairs and they fell out, and therefore we could say if she gave birth for sure she had simanim, and that's the reason why there's no miyun after this, and that's the pshat in the Mishnah, that a mother-in-law that gave birth, for sure there can't be any miyun following this.